SVG's Jason Dackman. I'm here with a good friend of our organization, Scott Rinehart of the University of Notre Dame. Scott, thanks so much for taking the time today.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So we're at the Sports Content Management Forum. You guys have been an innovator. Obviously, when it comes to Notre Dame, it's always state-of-the-art. And you guys were state-of-the-art before it was state-of-the-art. You planned a 2110 facility. You planned for the future, and now the future is kind of coming about. So how are you using those pipes that were in place, that infrastructure that was in place, to get those next-gen workflows active?
6 years ago, about 8 years ago, is when we started planning the Notre Dame Studios facility to support all of campus. And at the time, we had a really difficult decision to make: is do we stick with baseband routing and a baseband workflow, or do we take a chance to go IP? And us, our vendors and ourselves, we all decided we were going to hold hands and jump off the mountain, for better or for worse, and we'll see what happens. So we went in on IP, 2110. We are now fully 2110. And now that we're in our first equipment refresh, we're moving off of some of the baseband equipment that we used to have, so specifically our Ross Expression graphics machines. And we've replaced 3 of those this year, going native 2110. It's a whole new learning experience for the engineers and for everything else that is involved. But it's a great chance. It's a great chance to go, what does 2110 mean to Notre Dame now? What can we do with it? How do we improve our productions that we do, not just within athletics, but for the rest of campus as well? So it's going to be exciting as we're starting to see the vendors really driving 2110 native products now, and we'll just see where it goes.
Well, you talked about, taking advantage of these facilities so that they can serve not just your area of expertise, but the entire campus and everything campus-wide. Nobody has more history than the University of Notre Dame, and I know that you guys are always working to preserve that history. How are you working with the larger campus, multiple departments, to try to make sure that you're leveraging the content you're creating and that it's archived properly and the legacy is maintained?
Oh, that's a really good question. One of the interesting questions that we've had ever since I got to Notre Dame was, how do you deal with assets from when they're actually created and get them through to the university archives at the end of the day for the benefit of the historic record of the institution itself? So we had meetings a couple of weeks ago with University Archives, where they are now excited about trying to work with us on this. So we're just at the very beginning of these discussions, but it's really fascinating to start thinking about when an asset is actually created, the ownership of that, what is the real life cycle of that asset, and then handing the ownership and responsibility and the stewardship of that asset from the original person over to the larger institution itself. Right. And we're going to really rely on a lot of what sports people do to get there, right? Because an incredible amount of content that they always want to keep, right? Athletics wants to keep all their content all the time because you never know what they're going to need. But the institution as a whole can't take that kind of content on. So how are they going to pick and choose what they want? What are they really going to care about? And it's going to be a really fascinating journey over the next 18 months as we get on this train and try to figure this out, because as the University Archive says, nobody's figured this out yet. Right. I said, hey, that's perfect for us. Let's get started and let's make it happen.
Well, if anybody's going to do it, it's Notre Dame. Certainly balancing today's needs with the long-term legacy is one of the big priorities for Notre Dame, as always. So, Scott, thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks so much. Great to be here, Jason.
For more news and video interviews from the Sports Content Management Forum in New York City, stay tuned to sportsvideo.org and the SVG YouTube channel.